Hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, government finalizes framework for possible takeoff of Financial Stability Fund from next month. Also coming up, British financial economist describes banks in Ghana as too profitable and proposes bank tax to support government.
I propose that there should be some kind of tax on banks that could be imposed on the investment into treasuries, and that should be short term.
Ahead, government overturns recent undersubscription of Treasury Bills to record about 15% oversubscription of its targeted amount, but at a higher cost. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for joining us. Details coming up. Thanks for staying with us. In our first story, the government has finished putting together the framework that will guide the operationalization of the Financial Stability Fund from next month. This is what Joy Business has picked up from persons knowledgeable of the fund's workings. Here's more in this report.
Joy Business understands that this framework was needed to help secure the required support from the country's donors, as well as those that have pledged to assist the Stability Fund, like the $250 million from the World Bank, as well as another support coming from the African Development Bank. It was also needed to guide the operations of the fund, that is, which institution or persons should administer the fund going forward. Also, how can banks and financial institutions that need support draw from the fund? Government is targeting to raise about $1 billion for the Financial Stability Fund. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta recently told Joy Business that the remaining funds will be provided by government. The Finance Minister is looking at using the fund to deal with solvency and liquidity support for the commercial banks and other financial institutions that were hit badly by the shocks with the recent domestic debt exchange program. Government believes that it will be able to use this fund to stabilize the banking in financial sectors going forward.
Now, British financial economist and lecturer at the Aston University in Birmingham, Dr. Sajid Mukhtar Chaudhry, has described banks in Ghana as too profitable, hence the need for the imposition of a bank tax to generate more revenue for the government. According to him, the bank tax will provide the country a sustained source of revenue and act as a catalyst for banks to reduce reliance on short-term funding. Speaking to Joy Business, Dr. Chaudhry proposed a tax of 2% on banks' investments in treasury instruments.
So basically, the profits are driven by mainly the investment in treasury securities. So if you look at the detail of the banks, they invest some of the banks. Their investment into treasury securities is almost 3 times of their lending. And historically, this is what they have been doing it. Basically, this becomes even worse when the interest rates are high, because there is big incentive for banks to invest into treasuries. So broadly speaking, this is the whole profits is coming from easy investment into treasury securities, and banks which are supposed to lend to businesses and households, particularly to businesses which basically keep the economy moving, they are not doing that enough. So I also show in my research that the loan to GDP ratio is very low, and banks are mostly investing into treasuries to get the profit. It's not normal at all. Typically, a bank should invest their money should be invested like 65 to 70% into loans, and only 15 to 20% should be into investments. But we see particularly in big Ghanaian banks that their investments are 2 or 3 times more than the loans. So what can be done? I propose that there should be some kind of tax on banks that could be imposed on the investment into treasuries, and that should be short term. And of course, it's because government borrows from the banks by this investment into treasuries by banks. But the government can benefit by the taxation which they get from if banks are investing into treasuries, and government can look for some other avenues. So one of the way that banks share their profit in the form of taxation if they invest into treasury bills, and that's my short-term solution. For the longer term, I think there should be more similar to what exists in some of the European countries, to tax the risky liabilities, which is net of equity and insured deposits.
Now, the World Bank is rejecting criticism that it contributed to Ghana's rising debt and economic crisis. Ghana is currently classified as a debt-distressed country. However, some have argued that the failure of the World Bank to halt the country's excessive borrowings has brought the country to this new level and the present economic challenges. But country director of the World Bank, Pierre Laporte, disagrees.
Projects that we bring are very long-term concessional lending, okay? And for instance, Ghana as a low-middle income country borrows at terms that are mostly, actually they are concessional, okay, over 35% grant element, long-term 35, 40 years. We have a few windows now that are less concessional, but this is at the discretion of governments. But in the overall scheme of things, we don't do lending that gets country in trouble. Mm-hmm. What gets countries in trouble is when sometimes short-term lending, like high domestic lending that happen in Ghana, or some of the bonds sometimes are not so cheap. And I must say that, yes, there was a World Bank guarantee.
And that's what okay. Government to go out and borrow.
We did in that time. No, this did not put you. This is one of a small drop of water in the big bucket, right? So yes, with hindsight, when we look at it, we feel that maybe it's not something that we should have done or in the way we did. But at the time, it was the only way to allow. Without that, Ghana could not access resources. But it's a lesson that we've learned. It's first to say that Ghana, World Bank, will honor its commitment and pay off the guarantee, which we've already done.
You've done already.
We've paid already
for the Euro bonds.
Yeah, we've settled. As the coupons will come, we will pay. We've already, in writing, the board has approved for us to fully pay the. How much is that? It's $400 million guarantee out of a $1 billion bond. Yeah. And then Ghana will have to pay back over time, and we've offered some terms that we feel are reasonable for both sides for Ghana to repay. Other than that, I cannot say that World Bank borrowing has got Ghana anywhere.
The Chartered Institute of Taxation Ghana is calling on the Ghana Revenue Authority to deepen its capacity building efforts in addressing transfer mispricing in Ghana. This, the institute says, would boost domestic revenue collection. Speaking to Joy Business at a graduation ceremony, President of the Institute, George Kwetia, said aggressive transfer mispricing may inflate profits in low-tax jurisdictions, emphasizing the need for robust tax laws to ensure these profits for multinationals are determined.
According to the president for the Chartered Institute of Taxation in Ghana, transfer mispricing become a phenomenon most countries are battling with in their quest for mobilization of revenue domestically. He stressed the need to unify regulatory frameworks to efficiently address the challenge.
It is not like loopholes, but it is about coverage, it is about exposure, it is about experience shared. We brought on board resources which were even from the GRA themselves. They are retired officers who have been trained in transfer pricing to also come to share with the group their experiences when they were at the forefront of driving transfer pricing. So that experience is unique. And they've already left GRA, and that means that GRA doesn't have that in-house experience anymore. It is CITG that can bring such experience on board so that participants can have access to that lost experience. So I'm not saying that there is anything special or anything unique, but obviously there is a capacity gap that CITG brings on board, which is not readily available to GRA if they should solely depend on their resources. So yes, I would not disagree with their view because that's the way they see it. But from where I sit and from what we see as the Institute, there is a gap that we can also, collaborating with them, fill that gap to bring Ghana to the tax to GDP ratio that we are all looking forward to arriving at.
Deputy Commissioner in charge of operations at the Ghana Revenue Authority, Daniel ADC, pledged the commitment of his outfit to consolidate its efforts in supporting capacity building.
GRA has been in the forefront trying to curb this multinational mispricing. Basically, when you talk about multinational mispricing, it's about having a related party and not doing things in an arm's length transaction. So if you are related, the chances are that you try as much as possible to reduce income to your related party or increase costs to your related party, whichever way reduces our profit. For about a decade or more, GRA has been in the forefront trying to curb this. So we have built up capacity over the years. GRA used not to have transfer pricing unit. We even did not have any law regulating transfer pricing. But as we speak now, we have a law regulating transfer pricing. We have a unit. In my speech, I did indicate that we even end up getting more than $1 billion annually from transfer pricing audit. So you can testify that even though it's not an event, it's a process, we have gone far. To talk about our unit, we have over 50 employees, which have always been trained.
At the graduation ceremony, 41 graduates were awarded with advanced diploma in transfer pricing.
Now, government overturned its recent undersubscription of Treasury Bills to record about 15% oversubscription of the targeted amount. However, that came at a higher cost as interest rates continue to surge on the yield curve. Here's more in this report.
According to the figures from the Bank of Ghana, the government got about 2.4 billion cedis from the T-bills auction across the 91-day and the 182-day. Once again, chunk of the bit came from the 91-day bill. A little over 1.59 billion cedis were tendered by the investors for the 3-month financial instrument. The government accepted over 99% of the bids. For the 182-day T-bill, about 860 million cedis were tendered by the investors, largely the banks. All bids were subsequently accepted. Meanwhile, interest rates continue to surge. The 91-day T-bill shot up by 0.36% to 21.15%, whilst the 182-day T-bill also went up by 23.93% from 23.62% the previous week. Again, analysts and market watchers are worried about the rising cost of T-bills as government is still restructuring its debt.
Some civil engineers are calling for strict law to criminalize non-enforcement and compliance on the part of developers in the building and construction industry. The call follows recent incidents of building collapse across the country that have rendered some families homeless. Speaking to Joy Business at a stakeholder forum, engineer Seth Bright at Tipo Denya said these laws should be devoid of partisanship.
The stakeholders at the forum said these laws should cover essential areas necessary for the smooth and safe operation of the building and the construction industry. Engineer Seth Atipo maintained that there would be sanity within the industry if there are a lot of sensitization programs.
Before we talk about the implementation, the main purpose of the code and the regulation is for safety. The paramount thing is for safety of life and safety. And all these things are enshrined in both the code and the regulations. And then once the act has now been enacted, it can be implemented now. So the assemblies, they are the principal regulators, both of the code and of the regulations. So they have to make sure that whatever is in the code is enforced. But it doesn't mean that they alone have to do it. The developer or building owner also has a responsibility of the enforcement of the code. So when you, as a developer, you have your design, your drawings and specifications, you go to the assembly, who are the regulators, and when they check your design, the drawings and the specification, and it conforms to the requirement in terms of the site that you are going to build and the structure that you are going to build, they'll give you a permit. After they've given you the permit, you have the post-permit supervision, which is about the construction of the building or the structure. So during that period, the developer is to engage a professional, who is normally called the design professional in responsible charge, to be overseeing the construction of the building from the foundation to the roofing stage. And then within that period, the assembly, who are the regulators, that is the MMDAs, are also supposed to follow up.
On this part, Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Chamber of Construction and Industry, Manuel Cherry, reiterated the need to make safety and the protection of life the hallmark of the country's building industry.
We need to put this in perspective. If we talk about the collapse of building, there are a lot of dynamics that goes into this. We don't just get up and then apportion blames. But the reasons why initially I, on behalf of the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry, was hitting hard on the various MMDAs happens to be we are verifying laws in this country. And then the laws lies under the bosom of its interpretations and implementation and enforcement by the various district assemblies. But the issue we have here is, immediately the building collapse, they quickly come out and deny knowledge about the building and then the developer, that they have nothing about those particular buildings because they have not given any permit to those developers. But meanwhile, you are the enforcement agency making sure that every building that erects or that springs up in the assembly is proper situated where it's supposed to be.
The stakeholder forum was to discuss the way forward in improving the construction and building industry in the country.
All right, you're watching The Marketplace. The University of Ghana Business School, UGBS, is organizing its annual Management Week celebration. The 43rd edition this year is spearheaded by the Department of Accounting. Over the past 60 years, the business school has engaged with industry to bridge theory and practice through many fora, a key one being the Management Week program held annually. And joining me in studio to talk a bit more about this is Dr. Edem Sabo-Welbeck, who is chairperson for the 43rd Management Week celebration. She's a lecturer with the Department of Accounting, University of Ghana Business School, and Shadrach Kofi-Ofori, President, Business House Junior Common Room, University of Ghana Business School. Thank you so much for joining me in studio to talk about this. I remember last year, some of you guys were here to talk about Management Week as well. So tell us what the Management Week is about.
Thank you very much. The Management Week is just one of the forums that the business school would normally hold to bring together practitioners, industry, alumni, and students in an interaction, just to interact on very topical issues bordering on our country and in the school. So
what is the theme for this year?
The theme for this year is accounting for climate change and sustainability, our collective responsibility.
Well, when I saw it, I just was wondering what informed the selection of that theme. Tell me. By the way, today is World Environment Day, so
yes.
This is that we are talking about climate action.
Yes.
Environmental sustainability.
Yes. And so the business school had to choose this topic because in recent times, climate change is very real. And it's becoming a threat. In fact, it's a threat to our existence as human beings. Over the years, industrialization and all others, production has put everybody, has brought about the floods, the droughts and everything, and it is affecting human life. Indeed, the intergovernmental panel on climate change recently undertook a study, and it suggests that over 50%, okay, the outcome of the study suggests that by 2040, okay, the temperature rise will go past the 2%, the 2 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
And that is a threat, okay? Aside that, Sustainable Development Goal 13 also asks us to focus on what we can do to protect the environment and climate. And so as a department hosting it, we thought that we could do more, create awareness, sensitize everybody, and partner with government to ensure we can all sustain and preserve.
I want you to tell us why this topic is interesting for business or is important for business, this topic about climate change and environmental sustainability.
Well, it is very important, especially for us as accountants, as the profession, and business generally. For accountants, we always disclose information. For us, we provide information for stakeholders. Gone are the days where you just provide any information. Today, we want to be able to determine the impact of the climate change on our environment, okay? And then we can task all the business organizations to pay and make up for it. So we are not putting in our financials just anything on cleaning provisions. Now we want to be able to measure, okay, pollution, how much pollution our industries are emitting by their production, so that when they come to cleaning, we are sure that they can pay accordingly.
I see the connection. Let's talk about the activities lined up for the week. Who is taking that, Shadrach?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we started last Saturday with aerobics and outdoor games with Skinke Party.
Wow.
Yeah. Yesterday we had some humanitarian outreach. We did some donation to our financial aid service on campus. Today we had our breakfast with mentors, where we had our industry players coming to campus to talk to the students and see how best they can also. And tomorrow will be Rep Your School and interdepartmental quiz, where we would, I think we have 6 departments in the business school. So they will meet at the auditorium, and we have quiz masters to moderate everything. Wednesday will be management day. That is the day for management, where management will, the faculty, the staff, and management will come and interact with students and how best they can also cope with leadership and their academics. Thursday, which is 8th June, will be Financial Literacy Summit, where we will educate students on cryptocurrency. And Friday, which is 9th June, there will be student debate with management, faculty, and staff as well. Saturday is the student hangout, where the students will move to abroad regions for some tour. Then the last day, which is the Sunday, will be Thanksgiving service.
Oh, great. So you have a management day where I understand you're going to have speakers there at the event. Tell us who the speakers are and what issues will be addressing.
Okay. So this year, because we are focusing on climate change and sustainability, we have Honorable Abu Jinapo, okay, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, giving us the keynote speaker. We have Madam Edem Agbevivi, okay, a consultant in the area of energy. Then we have Mr. Randolph Ano from KPMG, who would also be delivering one of the talks. Yeah.
All right, looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting
Exactly, we are inviting everybody. It's a forum where industry, alumni, and everybody comes together.
Okay, you're going to mention that today?
Today is the 3rd day.
The 3rd day, okay.
So 4 days left.
All right, and what's happening today, remind me?
Today we had the breakfast with mentors.
Okay,
Tomorrow will be the interdepartmental quiz and the Rep Your School.
Rep Your School.
Where students will wear the SHS schools uniforms to campus.
We'll be following closely Dr. Adam Sawa-Welbeck, chairperson for the 43rd Management Week celebration of the UGBS. Also, shout out Kofi Ofori, president the Business House Junior Common Room, University of Ghana Business School. Appreciate your time with us this afternoon. Well, in other news, Milk PLC recorded a positive growth in revenue by 15% in the year 2022, according to the company's latest annual report. The corporation increased the amount it delivered in 2021 by more than 68 million Ghana cedis. Here's more from the company's annual general meeting held in Accra.
The strong growth came from recovery of its indoor business and increase in export business to affiliated companies. Speaking at the 62nd Annual General Meeting, Chief Executive of Milk PLC, Yosio Baton, said Despite the company going through a tremendous period of change as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the company was able to hold the fort by expanding its income.
To share with you some of the increases and implications in terms of pricing, we saw, for example, the skim milk powder, which is one of our key ingredients, price increasing almost 50%. Sugar went up 71%. The palm kernel 66%, and so on and so forth. In that context, you'll be wondering, how did we perform? Did we manage once again to make lemonade out of the challenges that we faced, out of the lemon that we got? Well, I am happy to say that at least from a revenue point of view, we were able to hold the fort and grow our revenue by 15%, adding more than 68 million Ghana cedis to what we delivered in the year 2021.
On his part, Chairman of the company, Charles Mensah, made a passionate appeal to government to implement measures to stabilize the city to enable businesses function with certainty.
For us, what we want to see is a stable currency.
All right, and that's our program this afternoon. Thanks for watching. You can get up to date on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Our top story, the Ghana's fiscal adjustment underway. Q1 data reveals that's according to a report, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for watching.